Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans? Welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we've got a new clip from Maul, a Shadow Lord. We got a new TV spot from Mando and Grogu. Lots of great Star Wars news and your Ask the SWU questions as well. My name is Chris. Joining me, he's back, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. It is nice to be back. I'm sorry I missed the last 2 weeks, especially since there was a trailer last week. But I'm not sorry I missed the week before because that meant we got one of our famous Ben Solo shows. And I got some feedback from a regular listener of the show who messaged me while not knowing that a Ben Solo show was coming. And decided to let me know. I just get a text at 9:30 p.m. 2 Thursdays ago. It says, "I'm watching Ben talk to himself. He's talking about Rhoda's abs." And normally, when I miss a show,
I wonder who that came from.
when I miss a show, normally I like to go back and re-watch or re-listen to what I missed so that I can hear what you guys talked about, hear the back and forth, know what was going on in the world of the Star Wars Underworld. But this one, I don't want to replace the image I have in my mind of Ben sitting by himself in that studio of his, just yammering away about Rhoda's abs, because it was also I got sent a quote that allegedly, Ben, you said, and you tell me if this is true. Apparently you said, "Looks like Rhoda is buff, guys. Look at his abs. Wish I had abs."
Wow.
Is that an accurate quote, Ben? Is that something you said?
Just not going to.
What did you say? We lost you for a second.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
You're saying we have to go back in time and listen to it? Is that what you're telling me? All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad to be back. Looking forward to talking about everything from Maul Shadow Lord to Mando Grogu to Zero Company to what I can only assume will be an extended discussion about Rhoda the Hutt's abs. It's going to be a great show.
So does this mean that we're going to start promoting Mando and Grogu on like the fitness magazine cover circuit?
Yeah, it should be. Right? Yeah. I told this story a couple of weeks ago, but when Force Awakens was coming out, I had this ridiculous idea to collect every magazine that featured anything about Force Awakens, which resulted in me buying some magazines I would never buy, and including like several fashion magazines that had like Daisy Ridley on the cover. Yeah. Because there were these like extended stories about it. So why can't we get, on, I don't know what a fitness magazine is. Strangely, I don't read many of them. But one of them, let's put Rhoda the Hutt on there and let's get Jeremy Allen White doing some in-character interviews. Like go do the full, like how like Sacha Baron Cohen would do interviews as Borat. Let's get Jeremy Allen White doing interviews as Rhoda, but exclusively in fitness magazines. Make it happen. Jon Favreau, I know you're listening. You can do it.
Okay, so what's wild about this is that this is the source of a Mandela effect for me. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm wrong or if the world is wrong. Okay. And it is, for some reason, I have this extremely strong memory of Constable Zuvio being on the cover of a Force Awakens magazine for some magazine. But I've been Googling it and AIing it and doing all this stuff for the past like 6 months. And the world thinks this didn't happen, that Zuvio was never on the cover of anything, that the only Zuvio anything ever was like that action figure. I'm confused.
There definitely was. Because there's that picture of him.
Yes.
That's like right close up.
Yes.
That was a subscriber exclusive for Empire, or Entertainment Weekly.
That's what I'm thinking. But allegedly, according to the internet, it was just a photo that was released in one of those articles. It was never on the cover. And I'm wondering if it's like a Mandela effect where like we're misremembering this. But like I just remember seeing a magazine cover and thinking it was hilarious that a character that wasn't in the movie was on the cover. Like I remember this, and it's a separate memory from the action figure. I'm confused.
Yeah. I feel like I have that same memory, but it may just be one of those like shared delusions that we from all those years of covering Star Wars. That's crazy.
So if you find this in your Force Awakens, your completest Force Awakens magazine cover collection, just let me know, because we might need to take a photo and put it on the internet, because I think this has been lost to the collective memory of humanity if it did happen.
So we could go viral. We could go viral with this. All the Constable Zuvio stands out there.
Whatever was online about it was pruned when the internet became dead. So like also joining us, of course, who has been manning the fort every week, keeping the show going, even when it's just him. It's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? It's good to be here. It's good to still be here. Yes. Real quick. I have a bit of an announcement to make. Actually, it's a pretty big announcement for me personally. I got a chair. Okay. Okay. This isn't for the last 15 years in this podcast. I have been sitting in a stupid ass wooden chair, and now I have a proper studio chair that I can properly, that actually doesn't hurt me hurt my ass when I sit down. So so as it stands right now, if I just like want to go down, I can go way down. This is this is maybe a little too low, but you can see.
Oh my gosh.
You can see where I'm doing here, but it adjusts, and I can go around. I can go over here. But why am I telling you all this? Well.
That was my question.
All this is to say that I wanted to do this joke, which is, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Yippee!
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
You're welcome.
Made even better by the fact that Ben is several seconds out of sync. So we're hearing this, I think, in a different time zone than he's saying it. That's incredible, Ben. Very happy for you. Very happy that you now have a chair and have joined the rest of us in the 20th century. I'm glad to hear that you've got a proper office chair that spins.
I'm in the 22nd century. I'm on a couch. I'm gonna screw the chairs. I'm gonna do the show from the couch now.
That's actually
been the case
better
for the past year or two. I don't know how long.
What I want, this is my dream, and I invite everybody to share in it. I would love to do the show from a recliner. I want to have my feet up and be leaned back about as far as I can go and have the microphone at some sort of weird, like acute angle so that my voice goes directly into it. But I want to be leaned back. I want to be so comfortable I might accidentally fall asleep during the show. I feel like that is the dream. That is
the dream.
The dream for any Star Wars podcaster. Speaking of Star Wars dreams and the dream for any Star Wars fan, I made a purchase this weekend. I was at Toronto Comic Con We had a very nice time, even though there were no Star Wars guests and no Star Wars panels. But we had a lovely time going about, checking out the floor, seeing the cosplayers, and making purchases. And I was with my friend Dan. He's big into collecting trading cards, and so we were stopping at all the trading card booths. And of course, there's been Star Wars trading cards throughout the years, and I saw an autographed Star Wars trading card that I had to have. It was just $20. I had to have it because it is truly, the term best character gets thrown around a lot these days. But if I say to you, and you guys, Chris, Ben, feel free to answer this question. Anybody listening, feel free to sound off in the chat. If I say the best character in the Phantom Menace, who do you immediately think of?
Sebulba.
That's not a bad answer. Not a bad answer. Ben, who do you think of?
Well, I know. I saw your post, okay? I feel like I'm cheating here. Panaka.
Yes.
Panaka. I'll say Panaka.
That Ben is correct. The character everybody thinks of is one Quarsh Panaka, captain of the Royal Guard. And I found I'm going to say only signed
Wow.
Quarshi Captain Panaka trading card, beginning what I can only describe as an obsession to collect all the Captain Panaka merch out there that there is. I'm sure there are mountains of it.
Yes.
There's got to be a Funko Pop. Surely that exists. Action figure Hasbro from back in the day. Was there a Lego? This is the quest that I'm beginning with this card, the best character in the Phantom Menace. I just wanted to share that with you all. I've begun this journey.
Captain Panaka featured heavily in a lot of the Queen Amidala young reader books from the 2000s. He was always kind of by her side.
Yeah, being part of that. So yeah, I'll have to start collecting all those. All right, but we'll get into the main bulk of the show here. But first, why don't we plug some things? Chris, take it away.
Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, punch that subscribe button. You can super chat with us. If you're not watching live, you can also support by becoming a channel member, and make sure you leave a review on the podcast apps that you're listening to. You can join our Discord. Link is in the description. And make sure you check out all the other shows that we have on the network: The Raeside, Ion Cannon Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. Oh, Dominic, you muted yourself.
That's what I get for coughing. That's what I get for still being sick after 3 weeks. Yeah. All right, let's get into things. We'll start with let's start with the next big thing. The next thing that is up and coming for Star Wars, which is of course Maul Shadow Lord. Last week was the trailer. This week, the first proper clip from the TV show features Maul making a very dramatic entrance as some law enforcement attempts to stop the Mandalorians and Zabraks that are on his team. Ben, I'm going to ask you first, mainly because I want to get a sense of how bad the lag is. What did you think of this trailer?
I mean, it looked great. Obviously, I literally just watched it prior to getting on this call. But yeah, I mean, it looks great. And it's interesting because I was kind of interfacing with what I had heard Sam Witwer talk about, which was Sam Witwer talked specifically about them kind of reintroducing Maul. And for anyone that wasn't familiar with the character is kind of get a full picture going forward. This feels like it could be his first scene. I don't know. It would be interesting to see if they would actually release that as a clip. But yeah. I mean, it looks great. Maul's very mysterious and looks great, and you don't get obviously much of him, but kind of a overview of what's going on this planet and the stakes here, and also how he's viewed.
Well, I know how Ben is viewed, and that is
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yes.
Ben Hart, the the Star Wars guy.
Star Wars rules.
This is momentous. This is exciting. Why, hello there. By the average person.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
He is the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Mr. Ben Hart.
How's it going, everybody?
So much incredible just happened there in the span of the answer and the song. It started off with, if people just listening to this won't know this, we say, want to see how bad the lag is, and ask the question. Ben starts talking. Chris and I both we make a gesture at each other like, oh, it's not bad. It's not as bad as we thought it would be. And then Ben starts to answer. Everything disintegrates. We hit Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, and the way StreamYard is supposed to work is whenever you're playing a clip like that, it automatically mutes everybody. And I don't know if you heard, the last bit of Ben's answer broke through. It broke StreamYard. It came through. And the whole while, we were just looking at Ben's little window in our behind the scenes here. He's just frozen, making a face with his mouth open. And now we've lost him completely. It's been incredible.
Wow.
Incredible. So I don't know how Maul Shadow Lord can ever top that roller coaster that we just went on. So they should just cancel all 10 episodes. While we wait to see if Ben can get back in, Chris, I'll toss it over to you to get your thoughts on the clip of Maul Shadow Lord that we saw.
Yes. I'm really liking what we're seeing from this show so far, visually, tonally. It's got a real underworld vibe. Like, this show matches our aesthetic so incredibly closely. I mean, here we are. If you're watching the video version of the podcast, we've got the nighttime Coruscant skyline in the background, and it's it's kind of showing stuff like this in the show. I mean, it reminds me too of the test footage from the Underworld TV show that never came to fruition. So I really dig in these vibes. I'm very, very excited about all the visuals that we're seeing, where the show's taking place, and all the different characters. It looks like there was some type of Mandalorian type character in this clip, which is interesting.
This is where I wish Ben were still here, because I'd ask him, because I think that's Rook Cast. I think that's Vanessa Marshall's character.
Yeah, there we go.
It's pretty exciting.
That's freaking awesome. That's awesome. And then Maul coming in, being reintroduced in that way. Really spooky, really cool. Would be a very interesting introduction to Maul if this is the first Star Wars thing you're watching. You don't know who he is. Everything that they feed us from this show just looks amazing, and I'm just so excited that we're only like a week and a half away from it airing. I'm so exciting.
It's very, very soon. Yeah, what I was most intrigued to see in the clip is the trailers for the show have been so stylized. They've really, really leaned into the sort of grittier aesthetic of the animation. Forget the setting, forget the location, just the animation itself. And I was wondering how that was going to play across the show, like outside of these sort of flash moments that we get in the trailer. And it seems to be a little bit more restrained in the clip than it is in the trailer, just a little bit. But in the key big moments, it shines through beautifully. And it's really nice to see. It's nice to see an evolution of this Clone Wars style that we've become so accustomed to. It's nice to see a version of it that's got like a fresh coat of paint on it, and that fresh coat of paint makes it seem gritty and old and weird, which is incredible. Ben, you are back. You seem to be moving with a very clear and crisp picture. Let's get the rest of your thoughts on this clip as Maul's introduction that you were talking about before the internet stole you away from us. I have a theory that he can't hear us.
I mean, the problem is that Ben already came back in my favorite Jennifer Garner movie, and it can't happen again.
What's your favorite Jennifer Garner movie?
Ben is back.
Oh, Ben is back. I didn't know that was a movie. I'll have to watch it.
It's a bit depressing, but it's a good movie. There we go.
Okay. Nice. That's good. When is Jennifer Garner going to be in Star Wars? That's the real question here. Why has that not happened? I feel like that's
a great question. She's been around for a while, and Star Wars has been around for a while. So it's just you kind of think those two things are going to intersect at some point.
Maybe it's a surprise casting on Ahsoka season 2. Who knows? We'll find out. We're just gonna make up that rumor right now and try and get someone on Reddit to run with it. All right, we don't have Ben. So let me say this. This is the other thing I find interesting about this trailer and the promotion for the show in general, and just anytime we see Maul in anything, we hear Duel of the Fates. And believe me, I am not complaining, because anytime you hear Duel of the Fates, it's a good time. But this is my question. Do we consider Duel of the Fates to be Maul's theme in the same way that Anakin has a theme, Rey has a theme, Leia has a theme? Is this like, do we associate that song specifically with him? Because I understand why we do, or why people would, but I never did personally. And so I'm curious what other people think. Is Duel of the Fates Maul's theme? Or is it just his favorite, but it belongs to everyone?
Well, I, as the representative of other people, I do think that there's some other themes that are kind of woven in, especially like when you look at the Maul episodes that were scored by Kevin Kiner. I feel like Kevin Kiner had some other kind of more dark, sidey like kind of themes to go with Maul's character in the Clone Wars show. So I think as a motif, it's definitely not something that's it's not the only thing that represents Maul, and it also represents other things beyond Maul. But I think it's the most recognizable thing that's associated in any way with Maul, and I think that's why it works for the marketing. Because for the marketing, you want to stoke up nostalgia for people in the music. I think that's the whole purpose of doing a motif in the marketing, is saying, "Hey, remember this motif from when you know in the 1990s?" Like I think so. I think that's what's going on there. So it doesn't seem like notable in like a way other than just like it makes sense to me. Basically, it makes sense. I don't really see anything odd about it.
It certainly makes sense in the marketing. No doubt about that. I mean, like it within the story, like even in Solo, when he shows up, you get a hit of Duel of the Fates. This scene in this clip, I presume, was not recut for the trailer. I assume this is just the scene as it will appear in a week and a half when we watch the new episode, because like sometimes a theme is planned to be for one thing and then it becomes something else. The Force theme, if you watch A New Hope, is really Obi-Wan's theme, but it becomes the Force theme, and they've realized that when they were editing it, or editing the movie, and that's why it's there for the binary sunset and all that stuff. Like they realized that it was more powerful than just one character, which is why Obi-Wan then didn't have a theme until the Obi-Wan Kenobi series a couple of years ago, and John Williams is like, "Here, let me right this wrong and give Obi-Wan a theme." The Star Wars main theme is really Luke's theme in A New Hope, and when Luke makes his entrance, he runs up to Aunt Beru and she's calling his name. You hear like the Star Wars theme, but it's not the bombastic version of it. So it's not unheard of for a theme to start off as belonging, for lack of a better term, to a character and then become something else. Because Duel of the Fates, the way George and John Williams talked about it in the prequels, was always it's the epic battle between light and dark told in song, and that's why it shows up at critical moments of that battle between light and dark. Duel of the Fates in The Phantom Menace, when Anakin is conflicted on his way to find his mother and eventually massacre all the Tuskens and attack the clones. And then when Yoda and Sidious are fighting, that's when we get another big hit of it in Revenge of the Sith. But because Maul is so closely associated with the first time that we really hear it, I think it has become, it's kind of evolved away from being this big, representing the full epic light versus dark conflict, and has come to represent this one character. Not necessarily, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying this seems to be the evolution that this song has gone through. And I wonder, had Colin Trevorrow made his episode 9, which was called Duel of the Fates, might we think of that track in the way that George and John Williams did back in 99 to 2005. Ben, what do you think? You've been spinning away there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have no idea what the hell you've been talking about because I haven't heard you for half the time. But Duel of the Fates is cool, I think.
That is the correct. I think that's the correct assessment. I'm trying to, I think I'm overthinking this. I think what it all comes down to is, hey, this song is good, therefore we will use it whenever we can.
Because I have heard the argument of just like, well, it's not Darth Maul's song. It's not.
This is what I've been saying. This is the debate I've been having out loud, with myself.
Who the hell cares? Who the hell cares? It's associated with him. It always will be. And we want to hear it, okay? Just put it on, and whenever he's on screen, if they put it on, then that's great too.
That's fair. That's ultimately, what is cool, and what is exciting, and what is effective emotionally, outweighs anything else. And I think every time that Duel of the Fates is used, it's cool, it's exciting, and it's effective emotionally. So who cares? Why not use it?
Am I the only one that hears all the characters' names in the song and the vocal lyrics of it?
Yes.
Yes. That's what it sounds like to me. When I'm listening to Duel of the Fates, I hear them saying Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, that's what I hear.
I mean, now I'm gonna hear it.
Yeah,
now I'm gonna hear it. Previously, I've heard corn on the cob.
That's Qui-Gon backwards and Darth Maul backwards.
There you go. I will say, Chris, you mentioned the Kevin Kiner's work with Darth Maul in the Clone Wars. He did this really cool thing that I wish had been done more of in Rebels and Solo and that sort of thing, and hopefully will come back in this show. But you would get those sort of whispered bits of Duel of the Fates. It would just be Karata, or whatever, just at moments with the character. It key moments with the character in Clone Wars, and I always thought that was really cool. And I liked that as a sort of in between of, sort of nodding to Duel of the Fates and nodding to its connection to Maul and nodding to the sort of cultural link between the two, but also doing its own thing of something new and cool in its own right. And so that's something I hope comes back in this show.
Yeah. Anything they can to shake it up would be really cool.
Absolutely. So this is a question we've been asking ourselves for a while now, and this is the what's in the thumbnail for the YouTube video, so we better talk about it. So we know we're getting at least 10 episodes of this show. How many seasons do we think Maul Shadow Lord will get? And how many seasons do we wish it would get? Having not seen a second of the or I guess we've seen 60 seconds of the actual show now with that clip, but having not seen a full episode sitting here, not necessarily on the eve of the premiere, but very close to it, thinking ahead, is this a one and done? Is this like the Bad Batch where it's got 3 seasons? Is this is this something that could be more like Clone Wars and go on for 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons? Is that something that you think is possible? Where are we feeling going into this show, as both in what we expect and what your dream version of it?
I hope that it gets as many seasons as they're planning. That's a weird answer to that, but it's like, I don't want it to end before it's supposed to end, and I also don't want it to keep extending further than it was originally kind of conceived, because I feel like that's when you get into danger territory with quality one way or the other. So yeah, that means more to me than the actual number. It just comes down to like whatever the story is planned for, I want them to be able to do that and not be forced to have it be longer or shorter than that. And then again, my personal feelings on that are kind of more just like come down to my own satisfaction with the show. And it's like, once I see all the things I want to see, that I'm satisfied with the ending. Until then I won't be. So for instance, until Kira shows up, it shouldn't end. And if we're on season 11 and Kira hasn't shown up, I'll say, let's make a season 12.
Ben, where do you come down on this?
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to predict 4 seasons for this show.
Ooh, okay.
I think
one more than Bad Batch.
One more than Bad Batch. I think this show has a lot of time to cover and a lot of story to cover. I think, not just in Maul's story. Obviously, we know like this, he's eventually going to end up on Malachor. Like, how does that happen? Maybe this show will be the vessel that tells that story. But I think you're throwing a lot of different pieces into this. You're throwing Devin Azara in there. I think her story is going to be heavy in a part of this show and how her story plays out. And I think this first season will at the least be, her kind of finding a way to find some common ground with Maul. And then future seasons will be maybe her downfall, her redemption, whatever. What happens. Or maybe she's a one and done character. I don't think so. I think she's one of the stars of this show, and I think she's going to play out. So I think, 3 seasons, 2 seasons seems too little. 3 seasons even seems like, I feel like they're going to have a little bit more planned than maybe Bad Batch. So I'm hoping and also expecting 4 seasons to round this out.
That feels like a pretty good number. Like, 3 seasons has the classic sort of, it's the 3-act structure. You could do it that way. But 4 does have a nice feeling for TV shows. I always feel like a 4-season show, as long as it's, ending on its own terms, is about the right length for a TV show. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but it goes on long enough that you feel like you get to spend the right amount of time with the characters. But Ben, you said something there that I think is kind of the key to all of this, which is we know where this is going. We know that Maul will eventually end up on Malachor, and I think that's the key difference between this show and, say, the Bad Batch, because the Bad Batch, ultimately, it's sort of a rebellion show. So ultimately it has to lead to A New Hope and the original trilogy and on like that. But it was very open-ended. It could have gone anywhere if they wanted to, because we didn't know the fates for any of those characters. It was really left open for anybody to do anything they want with it. And they chose to tell the story that they told, and they did a very good job telling that story. I'm not criticizing it by any stretch of the imagination. I really enjoyed Bad Batch. But with Maul Shadowlord, because there is a very definitive ending for this character in Rebels, and there is like a signpost sort of midway between where we are at the beginning of the show and where Rebels winds up, with Solo of where Maul is. A little bit of structure like that, I think, gives some clarity to what Maul's arc would have to be. And so I think it's almost easier for them to plot out, we want 4 seasons, you know, they can really, if they wanted to, they could go to, well, first Filoni and Lin-Manuel Brennan, and then, you know, the decision makers at Disney, and say, look, we have this plan to do 4 seasons, and Disney can say to them, look, as long as the show doesn't, you know, tank in the numbers, then go for it. And so I do wonder I wonder how much of a plan there is for this show, because the ending of this character, of your lead character, is known, which was not the case on any of the recent animated shows. Yes, that was the case for Clone Wars with Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme, but not Ahsoka Rex. We didn't know the fate of any of the Rebels characters. We didn't know the fate of any of the Resistance characters, and still don't know the fate of any of the Resistance characters. And we didn't know the fate of the Bad Batch characters either. So, but with Maul, we know eventually he has a date in, you know, 0 BBY or 1 BBY with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, where they're gonna have one last campfire together, and then he's gonna die. So I wonder if that allows for a little bit more planning than you might typically see with just your standard animated or live action show, your standard show just starting out from the beginning there. And you could feel restricted by that, or you could feel excited by it and really get to play in the gaps. And I feel like that's what Matt Michnovitz and Brad Rao and the team are setting out to do with the show. So 4 seasons sounds nice. I would guess 3 is the actual answer, but I'm gonna just hold on to your suggestion, Ben, and go with 4. All right. So of course, Maul Shadow Lord premieres April 6th. That's right. Yeah, April 6th. So just about, let's see, 11 days from now. 11 days from now, we will be watching Maul Shadow Lord. The other question I have for them is, what time is the show going to premiere, and why will it be at 3 a.m.? That's my question, because that's what they did with the Bad Batch. And it was, you know, it's, the people overseas need a win from time to time. We'll excuse me. We'll move off of Maul and talk a little bit of Mando Grogu. Mando Grogu is the next thing after Maul. We got 2 things coming up pretty close together here. We got a new TV spot dropped this week, featuring a decent amount of new footage. Ben, why don't you tell us your thoughts on what we saw in this new 30-second spot?
Yeah, no, it's actually surprising to get like a TV spot, because generally speaking, the TV spots, they just like cut up the trailers and like put new stuff. It's nice to get these little TV spots that are actually like, they have a decent amount of footage. We get Pedro saying something. He's not only got the helmet off, but he's saying words. Oh my god. So that's exciting, and saying monsters, and then of course the dragon snake. Why did it have to be snakes? Someone's got to say it in the movie, somebody. But yeah, a lot of really cool little visuals in here that I quite liked. Just, you know, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, just give me that. I don't need the big sweeping trailers at this point. You've already got my butt in the seat, okay? I don't need much more than that. Just a little bit of teases or whatever else. I don't want to see too much more. We've only got a couple months here. I don't want to get spoiled too much.
I liked Grogu banging on Din's helmet. That was such a that's I think that's the best Grogu really moment in any of the previews for me. That's my favorite, at least. Chris, your thoughts on?
It's very action packed, very fast cut and fast pace. So that was exciting. It makes the movie feel like it has a lot of movement to it. But so I'm hoping that, you know, there's scenes from the movie that have that same kind of motion to it as was shown in this TV spot. Because yeah, it just feels really visually stimulating and fun to watch with the way that everything was shown in this particular one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 30-second spot featuring footage we've mainly seen before, but they do such a good job of you hope that they're selling the energy in addition to the footage. Yes. And I think from everything we've seen that feels true. We'll find out if it is in about 2 months time. The other thing that stood out to me was I think we get our first like close up look at Embo's dog.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes,
as a fan of Embo and his dog, very exciting.
Yes, that was really
also
cool.
Fun fact, or not so fun fact about Merrick, Embo's dog, is apparently that's not original Merrick. Apparently, original Merrick from the Clone Wars died at some point, and this is a new Merrick.
What?
Apparently, this is what I've heard.
When did first of all, crazy that Dave Filoni is reusing the name Merrick over and over again, because Ahsoka, Maul Shadow Lord, other things. There's an Inquisitor named Merrick, and now we're going back to this.
So don't quote me on this. Don't quote me on this, because they're actually, I don't know if it's actually confirmed he's called Merrick. I'm just assuming Embo is using usual dog logic, which is if you have a dog and then you get another dog that's of similar breed, you just name them the same and you just keep going. You just Merrick 2, Merrick 3, you just keep going. So that's what I'm assuming Embo's doing, but maybe not.
Huh. Okay, so I'm looking at Wikipedia here because I need answers, because I refuse to accept that that's a different Merrick. There is a line here that by the time of the Battle of Jakku in 5 ABY, Merrick had died, and this is referencing the novel Star Wars Aftermath: Empire's End by Chuck Wendig.
Oh my God.
Now I gonna assume that for as much as they are sticking to canon and they have been willing to pull from what Chuck did with characters like Cobb Vanth Refrigeration, I don't think they are necessarily required to stick to Merrick, a throwaway line of Merrick's death in a novel from 2017, almost 10 years ago, from 9 years ago.
I mean, they're also not allowed to speak about R. Singh's death in a standalone film that recast Han Solo.
I do like the idea that Merrick is like the cat Snowball on The Simpsons, and this is Merrick too. I could cope with that. I could go with that. Embo's just like, I'm just gonna name him same as before. Also, the Anzellans continue to be a surprisingly large part of the marketing.
Very important.
I'm very fascinated to see what kind of role they play in the movie, considering how much they're in there. I would assume whoever cuts these trailers just really, really loves Babu Frick and is just looking for any opportunity to
don't we all
put the Anzellans back in there.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing a Mandoverse rewatch, and I just got to season 3, and those scenes with the Anzellans are really funny. With Carl Weathers just like sitting outside repeating everything they say. It's pretty good. And Grogu like hugging them and wanting to seeing them as a toy. That was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. So there we go. In terms of Maul Shadow Lord, there's some other like little tidbits that are out there. Some information from new figures from Hot Toys. There's some new trading cards that are out there. Nothing that stands out too much. I mean, Ben, is there anything from the other Mando stuff that you think is really essential that people know right now?
No, I mean, okay, real quick, I'm going to go over something that's kind of news, but also kind of non-news. So,
okay,
you remember on that recently, I think it was the episode that I did by myself. I talked about how Favreau was like, "Oh, the bald Imperial Shadow Council guy. When you find out his name, it's gonna be real cool, and you're gonna recognize his name." And then some metadata came out about one of the images that they officially released from the Empire magazine shoots, and we found out that the name of the Imperial Shadow Council warlord is Lord Janu. And Nobody can find any information on Janu. Okay, it's not a thing in the EU or otherwise. Completely new character. So Favreau, what the hell?
You done it again. You done it again, Lord Janu. So excited. All right.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Does he have a first name?
Maybe
Or does
that's
he have like
what it is.
Lord? His name is Lord.
I mean, the way Favreau names his characters, we have Mithril. I wouldn't surprise the clients. It wouldn't surprise me if his first name is actually Lord.
Really quick though, I'll give him a plus on this. The Itachi, the sitting next to him in the photo, is named Hog's Breath. Okay.
Nice.
Well played, Favreau. Well played.
That's a Kenner ass name if I've ever heard one right there. That's right up the Hammerhead. Ponda Baba. That's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. There's our Mando Grogu update. I'm sure we will continue to discuss it at great length in the months to come as we inch ever closer to the release. Also, in terms of new upcoming Star Wars, the next Star Wars video game is, of course, Star Wars Zero Company, and it was featured on the cover of PC Gamer. There's a very extensive and in-depth cover story. It's fascinating to read, even if you're like me and you don't understand a word they're talking about when they're describing what this game is. If I ever get to play this game, I will be truly surprised because I don't understand anything that gets talked about. But they do get into a little bit of the story. They get into some descriptions of the characters. We won't go too deep into it, but there was one tidbit here that caught my attention. This is from the PC Gamer article. Quote, in the Clone Wars show, because remember, Zero Company is a game that is set during the Clone Wars era. In the Clone Wars show, the planet Umbara was a brutal guerrilla quagmire for the Republic, which makes for a lot of bad blood between your clone buddy Trick and Umbaran sniper Luco Bronk. That's right, Zero Company is providing us with a spiritual sequel to the Umbara arc from season 4 of the Clone Wars.
That's cool.
How about that?
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
If like me, you don't understand what this game is, there's a reason to get excited for it. There's a reason to want to play this game. Honestly, that excites me more than anything else I've heard about this game. Again, not because there's anything wrong with what we've heard about the game, but just because I don't understand what any of it means. Do I get to play as a clone trooper or not? I'm still not sure. I am still not sure. But I'm excited to get a little continuation of the Umbara arc. Anyways, you can read the full article for yourself over on PC Gamer. It's a proper in-depth story. I wish they would do that level of in-depth stories about the movies and the shows. I look at this and I feel a little bit jealous of the gamers who understand what this means.
Single player turn-based tactics game is not language that is used outside that particular genre.
I think what might be in store for this, and this is a short little production meeting here. I think once this game comes out, we might need to get Star Raptor, our senior tie-ins correspondent, to come back and explain what the hell is this. Chris, help us, please.
Explain this game to us. Please and thank you. What do we have a release window for Zero Company? I'm wondering.
We do not. The release window is 2026. We are in the release window.
We are in the release window. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. What else we got here? Let's we're working our way through upcoming Star Wars projects. Let's take a little gander over at Star Wars Starfighter. Ryan Gosling, he's been everywhere because of Project Hail Mary, which is in theaters now, and I still haven't seen, and I'm sad about that because I really want to see it, and I'm seeing it on the weekend.
See
I'm excited
it
for
now.
But Ryan Gosling, he did an interview with BBC Radio 1, and they talked to him about a whole range of topics, and he did share a little story from behind the scenes of Star Wars Starfighter. Don't expect this to be any sort of great in-depth insight, but it's kind of fun to know. He said, quote, I went to the creature shop early and I found one very special one that was, I think, meant to be a background. And I asked if it could have a scene. And it ended up being one of the most fun scenes I've ever done. So Ryan Gosling getting involved. What creature do we think it is? Do we think this is like a classic Star Wars creature or something brand new that Neil Scanlon and his team have created?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm assuming
Like, was there an Ewok in the back there somewhere, and he's like, "This, I want a scene with this."
I don't know, for whatever reason, I am envisioning like Kowakian monkey lizard size, like something kind of small-ish things. I can't help but feel that he's maybe perhaps influenced. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but like, I think the word is out now that like there's a lot of puppetry in Project Hail Mary, and he's perfected the art of acting all by himself against a la Mark Hamill against a puppet, and he did it brilliantly. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in Starfighter, and specifically, since he specifically requested this, which sounds fun.
Absolutely. And he does say at another point in the interview that like he went to the creature shop early because he wanted to like learn to interact naturally with these creatures. He wanted it was part of his process, which is pretty impressive from him that he was.
Yeah, because he specifically calls this out as like there was like a whole bunch of stuff happening. Maybe like there's a whole like backlot scene, like they're gonna do like a walkthrough thing. And he was like, no, I want to like learn about all this stuff. I want to see what's going on in the background, and I want to like interact with some of this stuff. And I just walk by it. And so that's why he like picked out this particular one. So that's also just like Ryan Gosling's just the best. Like I've been watching a lot of interviews with the guy. He's like, I'm getting more and more excited for Star Wars Starfighter because I'm like, this dude, he knows his craft, he knows his stuff. He's a professional, and also he's a big nerd too.
Yeah, I love anytime someone who was just recently cast or just recently shot a Star Wars movie has another one of their movies come out and they get to do the big press tour, and all anyone wants to talk about is their Star Wars movie instead of the actual movie they're supposed to be promoting. That's all. That was one of my favorites. Good stuff. All right, so of course Starfighter next year, so a long way away, but I'm sure once the movie comes out, someone will have the story of what creature it was that Ryan Gosling so badly wanted a scene with. Okay, moving even further into the future, beyond Star Wars Starfighter to unknown future hypothetical project, John Boyega, he who played Finn in the sequel trilogy, he is apparently already discussing what his return to Star Wars could look like. He was at MegaCon this weekend in Orlando, and look, anyone who's ever been to one of these Q&As with one of these big Star Wars actors or big actors from anything, you know that one of the standard questions is, hey, would you ever be interested to coming back to Star Wars ever again? Would that be something you'd be interested in? And the actor, says, yeah, of course, I'd love it. And then everybody goes, woo.
And then if they're actually coming back, they'll say no.
Yeah. If they're actually coming back, they say no. So John gets asked this question at MegaCon, and someone in the crowd is trying to help him out, trying to, get him in touch with the new leadership over there at Lucasfilm. And someone shouts, get Dave on the phone, like get Filoni on the phone. And Boyega replies, I have. So John Boyega and Dave Filoni, what could they be discussing? What could they be plotting? Is there a Finn show in the works? Is there a Finn movie? Is he going to be in Simon Kinberg's trilogy? Does he have a secret cameo in Star Wars Starfighter? What are John Boyega and Dave Filoni talking about?
And before anyone ats us, I do want to acknowledge that there have been some other reports from people that were there. I think even Star Wars Newsnet put out a little report, kind of walking this back, going like, I was in the room, and like Screen Rant was the original people that pushed this out, and they're admittedly Screen Rant is a little pushy with the is not so is not so truthful sometimes. Let's just put it that way. So it feels like maybe this was a bit misconstrued. Some people in the room said that, oh, it wasn't as like direct. Maybe it was a little more jokey. The mood was in the room, whatever else. Maybe he didn't flat out say, actually have talked to Dave Filoni, whatever else. That said, I don't look. I am 100% in the camp that John Boyega is coming back at some point, probably very soon. And also, I can't help but believe he's talked to Filoni. Like, I think Filoni, what would be first order of business for Filoni is to like make contact with people like John Boyega and go like, hey, and maybe in a sense that like there's some bad blood there between Boyega and Lucasfilm, obviously, to kind of win him back and say, hey, you're still on our thing. So I don't doubt this. Like, maybe Boyega didn't say all this stuff. Maybe this was made up. I don't think it was. Even so, I am in the John Boyega is getting ready to come back camp, and I always will be.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been at one of those convention things, like there is like an energy that is there for the people in the room that's hard to capture, and I do think these guys say things on stage sometimes that are meant to play in the room, and they're not necessarily meant to be breaking news in the way they get treated. Right. Last year at Fan Expo here in Toronto, Ewan McGregor was there, and he famously said that he was going to watch all of Clone Wars, and that was his homework. And we tweeted that out. Ben, you posted that around on the internet. And I mean, what do we think the odds are that Ewan has watched more than one episode of the Clone Wars since then, right? Like I think he's just in that moment, he's just, he's more than anything, he's just acknowledging to the fans like, hey, don't ask me about Clone Wars because I don't know. And so, maybe John is like, yeah, I actually have, like, oh, I had a very quick chat with Filoni. Like, he's just sort of hyping it up, just kind of getting people excited for the possibility, because he knows that if people are excited at the idea of more Finn, it's more likely to happen. Again, take Ewan McGregor as an example. People were excited about the idea of Obi-Wan coming back, or him coming back as Obi-Wan, long before that was ever really in the cards. And it was that fan excitement that really pushed the Obi-Wan Kenobi series to happen. And maybe John is trying to generate a similar thing where people start getting excited about a potential Finn whatever, and that is what pushes Lucasfilm to go, all right, let's get a script together. And John has a production company. I'm sure they would love to be involved in the production of it. I'm sure he after his experience on the sequel trilogy will want more of a say in what happens to his character. And I think, it's his career with the sequel trilogy and beyond. I think he's earned that. So, I feel like there's a lot that there could be more behind this than we think, or it could have just been, hey, I'm just saying something fun in the room because we're all having fun here. It's MegaCon and we're having a good time. And of course, like from Filoni's standpoint, Ben, you said it, he's got to take the temperature of all these people, because if the Simon Kinberg project is what we think it is, it's, episodes 10, 11, 12.
Right.
As they're writing it, they probably want to take the temperature of people who might need to be in it. And if somebody is really like, hey, I don't want to do it, or I'll only do it if X, Y, Z happens, then they should know that early on in the writing process, so that they don't write a great part for Finn and then have John Boyega say, actually, I'm not interested. I think Filoni's and Lin-Manuel Brennan would be smart to start calling people up now, if they're even considering having the sequel cast in those movies, and say, hey, what do you think? What do you think about maybe coming back? And we'll let you read the script, obviously, but just know that we want to make this happen, and we hope you do too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look at what happened to episode 9 once Carrie Fisher died. Like, they had a big plan for her, and that threw a massive wrench into it. And obviously that was something that nobody could control. So in a situation where you can control some of it, why wouldn't you get out there and ask that question?
Yeah. And what actually, mentioning episode 9 reminds me, this is something that I haven't heard anybody else talk about this, but in reference to episode 9, I heard a story. This was shout out to the Weekly Planet podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. They actually had a scoop about this, which basically was in reference to, the whole thing about Matt Smith possibly being Palpatine and all this kind of stuff. And they basically explained all that by saying that they went to Ian McDermott for him to play Palpatine and bring back Palpatine, and Ian McDermott said no. He said, no, I'm not doing it. And then they went to Matt Smith and they went, okay, let's get you in. And Matt Smith has confirmed on his end that he had those talks about, he didn't say who he was playing, but he said he had those talks. And it wasn't until Matt Smith said yes that Ian McDermott said, no, I'll do it now. If you're going to recast me, then I'll do it. That's the story that I've heard.
That's crazy. I love that. I love that Ian's just sort of, going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, giving them a little whiplash.
But that's an example of just like writing a script and like obviously Rise of Skywalker, like Palpatine was a pretty big part of the movie. You have to, these writers have to, like, they can't keep, ho-humming around. They have to make some decisions and have some actors on board before they finish a script, or find a way to pivot, a la, I'm guessing, Palpatine was going to be a younger clone or whatever else, and we weren't going to have Ian McDermott. Or in this case, like, is John Boyega going to be a part of this? Is Finn going to be a part of this, or do they need to write him out or do something else with him if he's not on board? I think it's safe to say John Boyega is probably going to be on board in the right circumstances and with the right money on board, which all power to him. So yeah, let's do it.
I'm just imagining episode 9 now, like with Matt Smith in all of those scenes, right? Because I had always assumed, and this was just an assumption, that it would be like a Matt and Ian, joint effort.
Me too.
McDiarmid would do kind of the old Emperor stuff for the first 2/3 of the movie, and then when he discovered the dyad and used, stole Rey and Ben's energy to, reinvigorate himself, that he would have not just become like a superpowered version of himself, but he would have, gotten younger, and then we would have had Matt Smith as the young Palpatine. And I always thought that was a cool concept, even though I understood why, just from like an emotional standpoint, if this is supposed to be the conclusion to your story and you've decided, rightly or wrongly, that you want the Emperor to be the final boss again, then you would want to defeat the version of the Emperor that we've always known, that you have, 9 movies approximately worth of build up to, as opposed to a version that is new, that's different. And so that's why you have Ian still do those final scenes instead of getting Matt Smith in there. But that's fascinating that was like a pivot away from, because Ian said no. Interesting. Wow. All right, let's take a look over here at the Ask the SWU questions. These are questions that people have submitted via our Discord. You can also submit questions live as a super chat if you want to guarantee your access or your entrance into Ask the SWU. We'll start this week with a Discord question from our buddy Mr. Joel Davis. Joel says, and Ben, if you've handled any of these in the last 2 weeks, please cut me off. Joel says,
they're all up to date.
Oh, excellent. Joel says, hey, Underworld, a bit of a more topical question. Do you think Maul Shadow Lord is going to be a multi-season show or more of a miniseries that's one and done? Well, we have discussed this a little bit already, but he goes on to say, I've been thinking about this lately in light of Dave taking control at Lucasfilm. With live action streaming appearing to slow down after Ahsoka Season 2, I do wonder if we'll start seeing more one and done Star Wars animated shows take the place of some live action streaming series. Basically, could these animated shows become the projects that fill in the gaps between the larger saga storylines and different characters across the timeline? Personally, I'm all for it, and I think it could solve a few issues. For example, while I do think we'll eventually need to pull the recasting band-aid when it comes to legacy characters, an animated series about Luke, Han, and Leia after Endor could be a path of least resistance, at least amongst fans who are willing to tolerate characters not being voiced by the original actors. With animation, we can imagine in our heads that it's simply a different artistic style rather than a full recast. While it might be a little sad to lose 4 to 5 seasons and to lose 4 to 5 seasons animated shows, I do think shorter animated series that can jump around the timeline, maybe 8 to 12 episodes, could be just as fun. Plus, the animation quality can only improve over time. But what are your thoughts? I don't think this will be the end of one and done live action streaming series, but I do think animation may end up playing a much bigger role at Lucasfilm, especially under Filoni moving forward. Love the podcast as always, Joel Davis. P.S. I wouldn't mind going in this direction for the streaming side of Star Wars because, as you know, I'm very much an animation is better than live action kind of guy.
Really?
More animation, one and dones, or just more animated series, I guess, in general. That are only one season. So instead of having like multiple seasons, instead of saying, okay, we're going to have a new season of Maul Shadow Lord every year, it's like Maul Shadow Lord is this year. Finn Jedi Adventures is next year. Luke, Han, and Leia go on adventures set after Return of the Jedi is the year after that. And it's, each season is let's just say 10 episodes like Maul Shadow Lord. Each season is 10 episodes. What do we think of that concept?
What this reminds me of is when I start looking up animated shows, specifically anime shows from Japan about a certain topic. Because when you in general just look up, what are the, most beloved and highest quality anime shows, a lot of them do have multiple seasons. But when you want something that's about a very, very specific topic, then you start realizing that there's lots of like mangas and light novels that have longer stories that someone tried to make an anime show of, but it was only one season and they never made the second season, and there's a lot of that. And that's what this kind of reminds me of, is kind of like dipping your toes into all these different stories but not actually letting them kind of fully develop. And that would be the concern that I would have, is like, how do you make sure that it's a complete story as just one season? Was it be better served to maybe have it be like a movie or something like that if it's going to be so short? So I'm a little bit concerned of this. Now, that being said, I think that the better way to do this would be to just create an anthology series and just have each season of the anthology series really focus on something different, but still have it be the same anthology series and have there still be some kind of through line through it, but have each season be kind of really, really different in the same way that kind of each arc of like the Clone Wars, and there's like kind of different groupings of arcs about different things that then kind of reprise themselves throughout the length of the show.
Yeah, I'd take that over like one and done seasons. Not to say that there isn't space for it. It's not like I'm thinking about other Star Wars shows, and I think about something like Skeleton Crew or Obi-Wan Kenobi. And those are both shows where I'm like, yeah, sure, you could do a second season of it. I'm not opposed to a second season, but if you leave it as a one and done thing, it still works very, very well. The thing you run into is the people making it have to be on that page. We don't want an acolyte situation where they make a show expecting a second and third season, or thinking that was a real possibility, and then it's left sort of hanging for all eternity.
Oh, I mean, I'm thinking back right now of just like, remember how we started this whole journey into the, modern Star Wars era, the Disney Star Wars era, however you want to call this. We started, one of the biggest pieces of news we got was a bad one, the cancellation of the Clone Wars. It was the idea of, it was kind of reinforcing the idea that was permeated back in the day of just like, the Clone Wars was this underdog show that most people didn't understand, didn't watch, didn't appreciate, thought it was bad, whatever else. And it wasn't until years later it felt like that people really started to appreciate it. At that point, it was just like, oh, the powers that be at Disney and Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, they don't appreciate the Clone Wars. They're just going to throw it away and make room for their new movies. Obviously, that has changed, I think. I think that did change. And we got into an era where I think we got a lot of really great animation that Lucasfilm was providing that resource. It was doing that. And I think it grew that animation fan base to a point where like a lot of people are like Joel. They're like, yeah, I think animation is better than the live action stuff. And I, in some points, I don't disagree with them. I think animation has excelled in a lot of places that live action has, let's just say, struggled. But now we are in an era where the guy that made the Clone Wars, that made the Clone Wars possible, that was leading Lucasfilm Animation, is now in charge of the whole dang thing. And like, what does that change? How does that affect Lucasfilm going forward and what content we get? Obviously, Filoni himself has grown as a filmmaker, and he's looking to do more live action stuff, and more power to him. But he's got a big team. He himself obviously puts great value in animation. So I'm curious, how will the landscape improve? Obviously, we've been getting consistent live animation stuff, animation shows, and even more stuff really with Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, all that kind of stuff. So, we've gotten more. I'm curious, will we get more stuff? Will we get more stuff? Like, I'm wondering right now, we're getting Maul Shadowlord. It's ending on May the 4th. Will we also be getting Tales of the Bounty Hunters on May the 4th? Because that's been the tradition. Or will Maul Shadowlord kind of fill that void? I don't know. I would bet maybe, I don't know. But I am curious how Filoni's going to approach all this and how this might affect things. And ultimately, just see what is the state of animation going to be in 5 to 10 years? Now that the animation guy, Dave Filoni, is in charge of all this.
Yeah,
is he the animation guy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think Dave. Obviously, his background is animation. Obviously, he's very capable in animation. But
I'm saying that as that's how people perceive him. That's
Yeah, but the first thing that he did when Lucasfilm, or one of the first things he did when Lucasfilm was bought, is he has a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy, and Kathleen Kennedy says, "Dave, how do you envision your future at the company?" And he said, "I'd like to do live action." And she says, "Great. We're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to take some time to teach you how to do that. You're going to go visit JJ and Gareth and Ryan on these sets, and they're going to show you how to do it." And those three guys, along with Favreau and I'm sure others, help Dave translate his animation skills into live action skills. I don't see. I think maybe animation will get a slight boost under Filoni in the sense that just he thinks about it because that's his background. I don't think we're going to see like some sort of. I don't think we're necessarily going to see a golden age of animation, Star Wars animation, under Dave Filoni's leadership of Lucasfilm, because I think he's thinking about the Star Wars franchise, the Star Wars brand as a whole, and he understands the place that all of the mediums play, and he's gonna, if he's as smart as we think he is, he's gonna strike that balance, and he knows that animation, rightly or wrongly, has a smaller audience than live action Star Wars. Rightly or wrongly, not saying good, bad, indifferent. That's where it's at. So he's gonna, we're not gonna get still gonna get live action Star Wars movies, live action Star Wars shows. The Simon Kinberg trilogy isn't suddenly going to be done in the style of Star Wars Rebels. That's not the direction we're going.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
this is Plo Koon, Dave Filoni, not Dirge Dave Filoni. That's an important distinction there.
Yeah. So what I will say, there's two points I want to make about this. One, Ben, you said like another Tales season. I would love another Tales season, but for the love of God, don't put it out on May the 4th, and don't put it out on May 26th or 22nd or whatever day Mando Grogu opens. Like, put it out in the dog days of October or something, like when we got nothing else going on. Like, give us it then, when we're not inundated with other Star Wars stuff. But I think that the element of this that we're forgetting in relation to Joel's question that we that we haven't mentioned. I won't say we're forgetting, that we haven't mentioned, is Star Wars Visions presents the Ninth Jedi. That's the piece of this that I think is I think will be very telling about what the future of Star Wars animation looks like, because what that show winds up being, is it a one and done the way Joel is describing, or are we going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons of it? They have the branding Star Wars Visions Presents. Presumably they have plans or they have aspirations to use that for more than just one show. So we'll have Star Wars Visions Presents, the Duel or whatever else. And I think what is probably, or I won't say probably, more likely, I'll just say is a possibility, is that we get these Clone Wars style shows, Clone Wars animation style shows like Bad Batch, like Maul, Shadow Lord, that run for 2 to 4 seasons, where you get a new season every year or every 18 months. And once a year or once every 18 months to complement that, you get a Visions miniseries. So be it The Duel, be it Ninth Jedi, be it whatever else, pick your La Pinocho, like pick your favorite Vision story, and let's do 8 episodes of that or 6 episodes of that. So I think that is going to be part of the picture that I think sometimes gets forgotten when we talk about animation, because we tend to focus in on the Filoni animated stuff, the stuff that he had a hand in. But we should also remember that he is not the only person who can do Star Wars animation. He's not the only person who can create a show, even though he's co-created most of them. But the team behind The Ninth Jedi are also doing that for a show that we are presumably going to see at some point this year. Again, please do not release it at the same time as anything else. Let it be its own thing. Let it stand alone. We're going to have, Mando's coming out in May. Let's not get anything else until at least August. Let's see, let's see Ninth Jedi in August, Ahsoka in December, and throw a Tales series somewhere in between there just for, shits and giggles, because who doesn't want another season of Tales? It's an interesting question, though, Joel. Interesting thought experiment about the future. Let's go to this one from Gilster10, who says, with the Maul Shadow Lord trailer dropping, I've got a lore question that's been bugging me. What exactly is the difference between the Shadow Collective and Crimson Dawn? I always assumed that Crimson Dawn evolved out of the Shadow Collective, and after the Separatists dismantled it in Son of Dathomir. But then in Season 7 of the Clone Wars, it shows the Shadow Collective is still active, while Crimson Dawn apparently exists at the same time. So, is the Shadow Collective basically a loose umbrella of crime syndicates all pulled together, while Crimson Dawn is a more disciplined, centralized organization? How did these two groups actually fit together in Maul's timeline? Ben's Connection Corner, I'm going to ask you to explain something to me. Is Crimson Dawn and the Shadow Collective active at the same time? Like, feel like that's something I didn't clock.
Okay. For the record, this question has been in our little queue here for a few weeks now. I've actually read it a couple times. I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and I think I have an answer for this. I hope this comes out. I hope this comes out as intelligible as it is in my brain. But to Gilster's point, if my memory serves me correctly, you have in the chronology of events. Well, obviously, outside the chronology, we have like Clone Wars happens. And we have the creation of the Shadow Collective, and you have everything that goes down on Mandalore. You have the Pikes and the Mandalorians and things that basically coming about as like Maul pitches as like another side of the war. That like the Republic and the Separatists will be irrelevant once we're all gain our power, and that all happens. Then Solo happens, and we have the creation of Crimson Dawn, and this other thing that has also gone on to be in Star Wars Outlaws and all this kind of stuff. And then we come back to Clone Wars in Season 7, and we have, obviously, Maul mentioning Crimson Dawn. We have Dryden Voss showing up. And I think this leads to Gilster's question, which is like, okay, how does this interface? To my knowledge, my answer to this question is that the Shadow Collective is a collective of different shadowy organizations, pardon the pun. And they are the Falleen, obviously the Pikes, all those guys kind of getting together, and the sacking of Mandalore and all this kind of stuff, and obviously what happens with Satine and all that happens. And then once we get to Crimson Dawn is something that is its own criminal organization that is separate from all those other guys. It is a whole new ball game that is seemingly led publicly by Dryden Voss. So that's my reading of it, that like maybe there's some crossover there, maybe in the end of Clone Wars and the beginning of Maul Shadow Lord, or between that and Solo or whatever else, there is kind of like this melding of the two, that maybe there's kind of leftovers of Shadow Collective that they're all kind of keeping in cahoots, and Maul's trying to keep, control of all of them. But it seems to be that by the time of Solo: A Star Wars Story, the Shadow Collective is no more. Crimson Dawn is its own kind of really bad crime syndicate, all its own. And I imagine this actually will be addressed in Maul Shadow Lord. I think we'll actually get the answer to this specific question in a few weeks.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Could it be possible maybe that the Shadow Collective does exist? Like, we always say we think Maul is the leader of Crimson Dawn. What if he isn't? Like, what if all of the crime families just report to Maul? Like, he wants to be this king of the underworld. What if he gets that? And so Dryden Voss is not just a figurehead. He is the head of Crimson Dawn, but he is getting his instructions from Maul the same way that maybe the Pikes and the Black Sun and the others are as well. Sort of like, in Book of Boba. And again, this is fresh in my mind because I've been doing the Mandoverse rewatch, but like, Boba wants to let the Aqualish and the Klatooinians and the what are the Bosks called? Why am I forgetting what the
Trandoshans?
Trandoshans. Thank you. The Trandoshans. He's like, you guys all get to keep operating your zones. You just still gotta answer to me. You gotta pay tribute to me. You gotta answer to me. Maybe Maul is essentially that. He's saying you gotta answer to me. You gotta pay tribute to me. So if I need you to, move a bunch of coaxium, you're gonna do it. But you Dryden Voss are still the head of this organization, and you are supposed to report to me.
Yeah, because like as at the time of Solo: A Star Wars Story, like the plot of Solo hinges on like Crimson Dawn hiring Han Solo and Beckett to move some coaxium, and Dryden specifically talks about, we have an alliance with the Pikes. We're not in control of the Pikes. We're not in league with the Pikes. We're kind of sort of friends with them. We're working with them, but they don't like us and we don't like them. We're not part of the same thing. And it seems like whatever organization the Shadow Collective was just something exclusive to the Clone Wars era, or maybe to the era immediately following that. And obviously they're criminals. They're criminals that are led by a Sith. They're gonna betray each other sooner or later. They're not gonna get along. So maybe this is all gonna fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I'm sure this is a key part of the show that premieres in just under 2 weeks. So we may well have an answer. I'm glad we were able to discuss it before the show. We could actually try and speculate on it before the show might give us an actual answer. So thank you, Gilster 10, for a thought-provoking question there. We're going to end with this one. This comes from Mando Merc 85. Mando Merc 85 says, "Hey, Underworld, my question for today is a bit of a brain teaser. Lots of people debate in what order newcomers should view the Star Wars franchise, whether it should be in order of release or in chronological order. My question is, what do you think is the absolute worst order would be? Whether it be all of the shows first, or The Last Jedi to start it off, or anything else. Also, what show or movie would be the best as an intro to the universe? Maybe A New Hope, The Phantom Menace, or even a show like The Mandalorian." So what's the worst possible way to introduce someone to Star Wars? I have an answer. It is to show them the Star Wars Rebels episode, The Winkathu Job. And that, I think, would turn anybody off the concept altogether. No hate to Rebels, just that specific episode.
Yeah.
Okay, my answer is very different than it would have been a year ago or perhaps 2 years ago, because Star Wars is constantly changing, which is great, and people are constantly changing as well. So I'm going to say that the best. Wait. Oh, we're starting with worst first.
Worst.
Yeah,
Worst.
so the worst way to start and introduce someone to Star Wars is with A New Hope. That's the worst way.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, that is the worst way.
Do explain.
So this is why. As we are starting to realize, we are now old people now. And
speak for yourself.
I am now an old person. And the movie A New Hope came out 48 and change years ago. That was a long time ago. Media has changed a lot since then. The majority of people that have never seen Star Wars before, anything Star Wars before, when they watch A New Hope, they're going to be watching something that is visually foreign to them. Like they're going to be watching a style of filmmaking that does not exist anymore in the contemporary view. And unless you're someone that either has very cool parents or are like a cinemaphile of some type or a film student, you probably haven't been exposed to a lot of 1970s movies. Just like I don't know much about 1950s movies, for example. So I think that's not a good way to start, because you start with that, I think you get turned off right away as to you can't even really comprehend what Star Wars is. And I think a lot of people, and I think the reason why it's relevant to mention this is obviously you can pick some of the more sketchy animated episodes that exist of Star Wars and some of the non-canon animated parts of Star Wars as well. And there's a lot of good examples. Holiday special. There's a lot of like good examples of just things that you just wouldn't come across unless you're looking for it on purpose and you're looking to, you're kind of a masochist a bit, but with what you watch. But I think the relevant answer is a lot of people, because it's the first Star Wars thing, when they get introduced to Star Wars or they try to introduce themselves to Star Wars, they do start with A New Hope, and a lot of people actually fall off the wagon right there with the first movie, because it just does not represent the full scope of what Star Wars is and what it is in the current modern cinema and television era. So don't start with A New Hope. Do not start with that. It's lost its ability to start. It's not like it was when we started having these debates 15 or 20 years ago, and it still would have worked. Not anymore. Not in 2026.
I understand where you're coming from, but that movie has a magic to it, and it's not going to work for everybody.
No,
but it's not like it's not like other 70s movies. Like there's a lot of 70s movies that would not work for a modern audience, but that movie, especially with its special edition upgrades, love them or hate them, it has the secret sauce, and it still has the ability to draw people in. The cop-out answer to all of this is, of course, what's the best way to introduce Star Wars? Well, it depends on the person. And, the answer is two changes. All I'm saying is I do understand and appreciate where you're coming from, and I don't think you're completely off base. But that movie, there's something in that movie's laced with something. It still has the ability to bring people in, even if they're not versed in 70s cinema the way.
I mean, here's the thing. We're talking to somebody who recently watched A Dinner with Andre and thought it was amazing.
Sure.
So like, obviously for me, I would definitely consider myself a cinephile, as someone who has created media before. I don't know if I want to call myself a filmmaker or not, but I've created media. I create media. I'm in the media landscape. So to me, I have an appreciation for so many eras of film, and also I'm an old person as well now, and so as a result of that, I appreciate eras that might not be as appreciated by younger generations, just because I'm used to seeing them and I grew up watching a lot of it. So I have a unique perspective on that. But I do want to recognize the fact that I do multiple times have the conversation regularly with people. I like Star Wars, but the original trilogy is not really something I can even sit through. Like, that's something that I just more and more I have that conversation with people, that especially people that are younger than me, which now is a good percentage of the population. So like that's my point. It's like, as time progresses, we have to kind of get out of this like, again, it's just so strange for us, because when we grew up, there were so few Star Wars things. And it's like, for me, when I was first introduced to Star Wars, there were only 3 Star Wars movies in existence. So
yeah, this wasn't even a question. It wasn't, do you start with Empire or Jedi?
So it's like, it just seems really odd and almost sacrilegious to say, don't show the cornerstone of the entire franchise that launched everything first. But I just have to understand that Star Wars, while yes, it all is built around and came out of New Hope and the original trilogy, and obviously that's the thing that started everything, from a perspective of outside the universe, how it happened. Like, Star Wars itself as a story is so much bigger and so much more comprehensive than that original movie and those original movies. I can't even, I don't remember the number of Star Wars movies. I think it's like 11 or something. I don't offhand even remember the number. Could I tell you how many episodes of Star Wars television, live action television, exists now? I think it's like over 100, but I don't know exactly. Like, there's just so many things. It's not, you can't even count it anymore. To say we got to start with this one thing, I don't know. I think it's just losing its value. And I understand the kind of idea of, well, look at how many filmmakers came out of sitting in a theater or watching New Hope for the first time, or watching it on VHS as a kid or whatever. And it's like, yes, that's true. But we're talking about just one generation or 1.5 generations of people there. There's so many other filmmakers who would attribute that to Revenge of the Sith, who would attribute that to the Clone Wars, who would attribute that to the Mandalorian or the Last Jedi, that those things have secret sauce, special sauce in them too. They're just as relevant, if not more relevant, to these newer generations as a New Hope was. Yes, we have the monoculture that allows those future things to be as much of a zeitgeist as a New Hope was, but in many, many ways, things like the Mandalorian in their own time were a cultural zeitgeist. Look at how Disney Plus blew up during that era. Like, that's the closest thing to a monocultural zeitgeist that we've gotten on the internet, in the internet streaming era. And so I think that has extreme relevancy too. So there's so many things. I'm going to put forth in a bit what I think people should start with now. But I think it's just kind of a little bit, I think it's a little bit naive to just assume that because A New Hope started it for so many people 50 years ago, that it would continue having that same effect now to someone who's like 22 or 15 or 7 years old.
Yeah, and not to jump too far ahead, but I like my answer for the second part, which is what do you start with? It would have been The Mandalorian. I think that is probably the best entry point that we've gotten in years. All I'm saying is the distinction between The Mandalorian and A New Hope is not as drastic as, say, the very first episode of Doctor Who and the most recent one. Like, there's like that's a whole other world. Yeah. Star Wars
100%.
New Hope, like, again, it's set. It's the starting point for everything since it. And so I think it's still more tangible to a modern audience than a lot of things of its era. Again, acknowledging where you're coming from and not dismissing your point entirely, because I do think I think you're right in a lot of what you said about, it's been so friggin' long since that movie came out. But that I'm just saying that I do think for some people, including some young people, who don't have the cinematic history and legacy in their mind. I do think that movie would work a lot better than a lot of its contemporaries, because it is such a unique, perfect piece
I agree.
of art.
I agree. And that's why it's held on for so long. And that's why we're not starting to have this conversation until like the 40 to 50 years of it been out.
Yeah.
Like if it was like its contemporaries, when we started this podcast, we would have been saying that. But because it would have had the same quality as the Star Wars Holiday Special, because that's what the contemporaries were at the time. So it's held on. Everything that Star Wars is like at least 10 years ahead of its time, and so that movie certainly was extremely still relevant in the 90s. And when you think about the fact that the version that most people were introduced to Star Wars with was the 90s version, which did look different, you could also make the argument that this would be closer maybe to that comparison to Doctor Who if it was the original cut of it versus the special edition or the Blu-ray or DVD cuts.
The 50th anniversary screenings, I'm so looking forward to the experience of like the historical experience, like being like my cousin Indy and being an archaeologist and seeing this artifact from the past. I'm so excited for that. Like, I'm genuinely I think that's so cool that we're gonna get to do that. It's gonna be an eye opener for some folks. It's gonna be an eye opener for some folks of how much the special editions impacted Star Wars. And for a lot of folks that say they ruined Star Wars, it's gonna poke a whole lot of holes in their argument.
I think so.
But still very excited to see it. And regardless of any sort of argument or debate, I just want to see that thing the way it was in 77 as like an experience. It's gonna be terrific. Ben, you've been very patient here as we debate this. What do you think the worst way to introduce someone to Star Wars is?
Okay, I genuinely think the worst way to introduce someone to Star Wars for the first time ever is to show them Andor. honestly, because if they watch Andor and they're like, "Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life," they're going to be, and then you're going to be like, "Oh crap, it's all downhill from here."
That's good.
It's too good. It sets the bar too high.
And I'm serious. I'm serious. To Chris's point, like A New Hope, it is kind of an exception. It's kind of an anomaly. It's a different thing. It's not like other Star Wars, which makes it good. A lot of people use that as a kind of a cudgel to like bash on other Star Wars. Like I think it's good that Andor is different, but it is very different. And I think if you watch Andor and you don't have any concept for what other Star Wars is, you would think, "Oh, this is all of it is Andor." No, sweet summer child. It is not all Andor. I'm sorry. It is not. And to that point, I think the absolute best thing you could possibly show someone who's never to show them Star Wars. If you're going to start someone out, they've never seen anything Star Wars before, show them the holiday special. Show them the holiday special, because you can't win. You can't lose. You can't lose. Think about it. Either they love it, and they're like, "Oh my God, well, it's all up from here, guys. It's all up from here."
Yeah.
Or they hate it, and you're like, "Well, this is the worst Star Wars, so it's all up from here." So you can't lose. It's the perfect thing to start with.
What if you showed it to them back to back? You're like, "All right, we're gonna start with the holiday special today, and then it's gonna end, and then we're gonna start with season 1, episode 1 of Andor, and work our way through that."
This is what I do with like YouTube channels. Like I want to see like what's the first YouTube video this YouTuber made like when they were like 12, and then like how does that compare to the last one, and like how has the quality changed? Like,
this is why I'm glad the
transitioning from Carrie Fisher singing about Life Day to Diego Luna shooting 2 cops in a back alley. That's a cultural. That's a whiplash. Whiplash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Real quick. About Andor. This you were talking about, Ben. I feel like Andor is the one show that doesn't encourage you to, or doesn't like leave you wanting to go, oh, I want to explore the wider universe. I feel like Andor is the one show, and I this is not a criticism. This is, if anything, maybe it's a bit of a compliment, that has you go, I'm just locked in on this, and everything else around it is just like, it's just dressing. It's just dressing for this story. Whereas I feel like, Mando, Obi-Wan, the movies, they all say like, there's a whole universe out here to explore. Like, this is your first steps into a larger world. Whereas Andor is like, you are locked in for 24 episodes. It's going to be the best 24 episodes you've ever experienced. Like, this is great. And then when you're done, you're kind of like, okay, I don't need anything else. Like that was my perfect Star Wars experience. 12 perfect episodes. Whereas the other stuff is like, Eric, no, come out. There's more. Watch the shows, watch the books, or watch the movies, read the books, play the video games.
So the second that I hear someone actually say that, I will believe it. But until then, it's amazing. I love that this is such a strong opinion, because I do think Andor is the best way to start now.
Okay,
like I have the literal opposite opinion of this, and it's not because you're necessarily starting with one of the best things, so you have the highest chance of someone liking it, but also from a point in the story to start. I think it's a very good point in the story to start, because Andor kind of explains the least about all the various Star Wars things that you can slowly have the universe kind of unravel to you. I think there's certain points where you start where it's just assumed that you know everything and everything is being referenced, and it might be a bit confusing. Yeah. But because the story is so insulated, that I feel like you can still really enjoy it, not having seen anything else, and then other things can slowly be revealed to you as you move forward. And so, and the thing is, I really do feel, and again, once we need to find some people that started with Andor to see which opinion's right on this. But I do feel like if Andor is the first Star Wars thing that they saw, knowing that they can immediately go to a movie after that, I think a lot of people would want to do that if you like that. I mean, I immediately watched Serenity after watching Firefly. Was I a little disappointed? Yes, but I did. And if there were more movies, I would have kept watching them. So I think, which also, random side note, I found out that Serenity is considered one of the top 50 pirate films of all time. That's random. I never.
Sure, why not? Yeah,
I've never really thought of Firefly as a pirate series, but I guess it is when you make it is a space pirate series.
It's got a piratey vibe to it.
So it does count. But it's just something I never thought of before until I looked at the list of the top 50 pirate movies on IMDb after recently moving
4:30 in the morning.
Yeah. But anyway, here's the thing. This is what I think is, like, if you watch Andor, you get something that's pretty good quality. You do something that's modern, that's in the modern kind of language of cinema and everything. So you're not going to have that cultural disconnect there between that and something that came out 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And then you immediately can go to Rogue One. And then from there, there's a lot of things that you can do. Like, you can kind of really easily plug into a lot of the Dark Times stories, and there's a good amount of them now. Like Rebels and Bad Batch and Solo, and you can plug into that really easily because it's the same timeline. So you area in the timeline, so you kind of understand what's going on. Or if you continue on to A New Hope, Rogue One goes into A New Hope, and they basically are one long movie in a sense that you can probably overcome the difference in the cinematic style, because there is that kind of transition from Rogue One into A New Hope when there's enough references in the way Rogue One is made to A New Hope that you can kind of half ground yourself in what's going on from something that you've already seen and connect to the parts that are similar. And then my biggest reason why I think it's good to do that order of Andor to Rogue One to A New Hope and to Empire Strikes Back is you slowly have the mystery of the Force being unraveled to you through those things, because you have a bunch of the characters in Andor are so disconnected from the Force. It's talked about as such a such a separate thing, which is kind of more similar to how it is for us as Muggle people, and in our world. And then you slowly get a little bit more of the Force introduced and Rogue One, but you don't necessarily have that main Jedi character where it's not quite in your face yet. And then you finally, through the character of Luke Skywalker, have the nature of the Force and Force powers and the mentors of Obi-Wan and Yoda slowly explain it to him. I think that's a great way to get introduced to the Force, going through that. And then after that, then you can go for the thing that we've always said was a very good way to get introduced to Star Wars, which is the flashback, where as soon as you get that reveal, you can get all the way through all of that up to the end of Empire Strikes Back, still not knowing the truth about who Darth Vader is. And then once you get that, then you can go back and get that whole story. Then you can move forward into the sequel era. I think that from a storytelling perspective, I think that's the best way, storytelling wise, to get introduced to the entire universe and its concepts.
Yeah, that's pretty good, because the thing for A New Hope, so that's always, I think it's always for me, is why I want to recommend it to people as the first one, is it's the first one that's made with zero context for the universe. It's the first one where they say, here is a lightsaber. Here, what is the Force? Here is a broad spiritual explanation of it. Like it gives you all of those things and says it is the true beginning of the story. But I like this idea of like, okay, if we need a modern lead into it, well, here's two great stories from the last 2 decades in Andor and Rogue One, and that'll ease the transition into a more old school movie where you don't need the Force necessarily to fully understand those other 2 stories. And then when you are ready for it, someone will sit down, Sir Alec Guinness will sit down and explain it to you and just say, here's the Force and what it all means. I said my pick was Mandalorian. I think again it hits that sort of modern feel for folks. I think that I'm really only focusing in on the first 2 seasons. The 3rd season kind of I wouldn't necessarily. I would hope that you would want to continue, but I really think those first 2 seasons, it's a pretty good entry point. The characters are all new. The main characters are all sort of new characters that you get to meet for the first time. They don't understand the whole galaxy. They talk about the galaxy in the past in a way that's intriguing, but without relying on you knowing what it all means. And the structure of the story is like a bounty hunter story for the first 2 seasons, really allows you to go around and get a taste of what all of the galaxy is like. And as the show progresses, it slowly incorporates more of those connections to the other parts of the universe. And if your goal is to introduce someone to the wide array of storytelling that is Star Wars, then you've watched all of Mando seasons 1 and 2. Well, suddenly you're like, hey, what's the deal with this Empire thing? Well, let's go back and watch the original trilogy and find out about that. And then we can go back, or even go back further and watch Andor and Rebels and things like that. Who are these other Mandalorians? Bo-Katan and her people. All right, so now we're back into Clone Wars. What's with this Boba Fett guy? Like, where does he come from? And who's this Jango that he mentions? Then you're into the prequels and Attack of the Clones. Like it really invites it because it is so reference heavy, which can be a little bit frustrating at times. But it does, I think it invites new audiences to want to explore the universe, because for as many references as they do, more often than not, and those, again, limiting ourselves to those first 2 seasons, they were window dressing. They were there because, oh, what if we had a tree full of monkey lizards and things like that? Like it wasn't like you had to understand these things, because Din Djarin doesn't understand what a Jedi is, right? And he says, you want me to deliver this child to a race of enemy sorcerers? Like, he doesn't understand what that means. So if you as the audience are along for that journey with him as the new person, as the new audience, I think that's pretty good. Once you get to season 3 and you have characters saying things like Count Dooku was a visionary with very little context, I can understand how that's a little bit harder to relate to if you don't know the full backstory. As much fun as that episode is, and as fun as it was to hear Doc Brown say that, it is a little like that's where you could run the risk of losing. If the show were like that from the beginning, I wouldn't necessarily say that's a great entry point. But as an entry point, I do think Mando also works for that new audience. And when you watch those first few scenes of Mando, are much more Andor toned than the rest of the show wound up being. But if that's what you're looking for, something a little grittier, that's a pretty good entry point too. Although I do, like I said, I enjoyed this like Andor, Rogue One, New Hope trajectory. I think also really works.
And I think again it goes back to that what you said earlier, which is the true right answer is who the person is. Like I think the age of the audience is really important there. I think there's a certain cutoff where I think Mando is certainly better, and there's a certain cutoff where Andor is certainly better, and it's different for everyone. But I think there's a point where it transitions depending on the person's age from one option to the other, and what one is best depends on that. And I also think that Mando is actually going to be more and more and more the best when the universe around it gets expanded more and more. Because I think that the one thing that I'm a little hesitant about recommending Mando as a place to start is you have to quickly get to disjointed stuff to keep going through in Star Wars, whereas Andor's and Rogue One are they're finished projects, and so you can quickly jump to other finished projects around the era, like Rebels, like the Bad Batch, like the original trilogy, that are still very close to that. Whereas you get stuck with Mando because, like, if you recommended this today, well, the movie hasn't even come out yet for that, and Ahsoka season 2 hasn't come out yet, and then we haven't really seen how that really fits into the sequel era yet, because we haven't moved on to like the Dave Filoni movie and the further seasons of these shows and how those might be references into things like Starfighter that bridge those to that era more. I think when you move like 5 years from now in 2031, when they've kind of finished building out this whole Mandoverse era that exists between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, I think that's going to be a very good place to start, because then you can first of all have a lot of content in the era without having to jump around to a different spot in the timeline to get more stories, and then it's going to more naturally segue into what comes after that, whereas now it would feel very disjointed, because it would feel weird to watch a few seasons of Mando and then watch The Force Awakens, because you'd be like, is this the same universe? I'm really confused. The characters aren't the same. What's going on here?
I'm hoping by this is what I said. Like, I think it invites you to explore the larger universe, in that it's not meant to be like, this is the thing. This is the thing. It's like you're supposed to watch it, want to know more, and so you're like, okay, I want to go and see these disjointed things, and because part of the Star Wars experience is being disjointed. That's kind of what we've landed on. The other point that I should have mentioned as the first point for why Mando should be is a good place to start people, and I think we all know the answer to this. 5 little letters. Grogu. Grogu.
Exactly. And you guys, just really quick, just like to point out, like, you guys keep touching on it, like it does depend on the person, and it does depend on their knowledge level. I think a lot of people are like, you have to start with New Hope because you have to get the reveal in Empire. I think a good question to ask somebody, if you're talking to them and you're like, hey, you've never seen Star Wars before, who is Luke Skywalker's father? Do you know the answer to that question? Depending on their answer to that question, it may be like, well, if you know the truth, then what's the point? Just start at the beginning and go forward if you're just dealing with the movie.
Start at the acolyte.
That was going to be genuinely, I gave my Win Cathu job answer as the worst place to start. I was going to actually say the acolyte is the worst place to start, because it cuts off, not because it's bad, but because it ends with like so clearly there's supposed to be more, and there just won't be, and so it'll just be, if that's the first thing you watch, you just come away frustrated that there
and like, I think also depends on the person, in regards to, like, some people may be intimidated about getting into a TV show versus a movie. I think there is a time commitment there. Like, I've only got 2 hours to spend tonight. A New Hope fits that bill pretty well. It's a 2-hour movie. You can knock it out pretty quick, versus, a season of The Mandalorian is going to cost you several hours. And also, just like, I like, people will kind of push back on, like, starting with the prequels and whatever else. I love the reaction video of the girl who is watching Revenge of the Sith, and she's never seen anything Star Wars. And when it gets to the part where he's like, henceforth you should be known as Darth Vader, and the thing clicks in her head where she realizes that Darth Vader and Anakin are the same person.
Yeah.
And she starts losing her mind because Anakin has been her hero for 3 movies, and suddenly she realizes he's actually going to be Darth Vader. I'm just like, there is more than one way to skin this cat, okay? There's so many different ways to experience Star Wars.
That's a good point.
And they're all valid. They're all valid.
That is true. That is the ultimate thing, and like some people get in through the books, some people get in through the video games. So like it's whatever is the thing that whatever the hook is, the thing that catches your attention. Then great, like who cares? But yeah, when
an action figure in a cereal box.
There it is. It could be.
Or the Clone Wars episode "Evil Plans." Maybe they like droid spots. I don't know. Maybe.
No. Hey, if you enjoy shopping, if you're a shopaholic, if you enjoy those game shows where you have a cart and you got to fill it with as many things as possible in 20 minutes, yes.
Yes.
I love joking fruitcake.
There we go. All we've ever wanted. Thank you, Mando Merc, for that question. Very thought-provoking there. But I think with that, we will begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching the show, so much for listening to the show. Please subscribe on your way out on YouTube, or if you're listening in a podcast app, or follow us on whatever social media you might have seen this on. If you haven't, we want to thank everybody that super chats and is a channel member for helping keep everything running. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It's my pleasure, as always. Glad to be back. It's great fun to get into all the things that we talked about tonight. Very much looking forward to Maul Shadow Lord. Very much looking forward to Mando Grogu. Very much looking forward to a lot of things, and it's always good to spend some time talking about that and pondering the bigger questions of the Star Wars galaxy. Like, where can I get more Captain Panaka merchandise? Yep. That is still what I'm most worried about. And really, the answer to the question, what is the best place to start someone watching Star Wars? It is anything and everything Captain Panaka. He is our favorite character in the Phantom Menace. Great fun. I'll remind everybody, if you want to read my thoughts on Star Wars, you can check out my Substack at dominicgjones.substack.com, aka Hoth Off the Press. It's been a little light on content because I've been weirdly sick for like 3 weeks, and it's just been like kicking my butt, but I'm mostly through to the other side. And with Maul Shadow Lord coming up, I think it would be a lot of fun to be posting there a lot. So that is my plan, that is the goal, and that is my I won't say promise, but that's my suggestion to you. That is what I'm doing. So dominicgjones.substack.com, check it out. And yeah, it's been fun. Can't wait to do it all again in 7 days' time.
At DominicJ25 on social media. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, it is a pleasure. As always. Okay, bye.
For everybody listening, Ben is spinning and wheeling around in his brand new chair.
Oh man, yes. I always, we all remember the age when we found out that we could spin around in one of those chairs. Ben is just experiencing this for the first time, which is just, such a tender moment to see right now. It's like baby's first steps over here. It's amazing. Discovering the spinny chair.
For everybody who's listening, is just listening, you're missing out on some great physical comedy right now. So at least come and check out the video of this bit.
It's happening like an hour and 56 minutes into the show.
Yeah.
Well, you know that if you're listening, you're on the timestamp.
I think I'm going to be sick.
Now
fast forward to the end.
Oh, yes. At Ben Hart with no E, or search for Ben Hart the Star Wars guy, or whatever needs to happen to find Ben on social media these days, on how Blue Sky search works, and all these things. Check it out. Check out all the other shows we got on the network. So you can find Ion Cannon on Mondays on this channel. You find Tractor Beam on Wednesdays on this channel. You find Hannah's channel over at the Raeside, Raeside. Anytime she's not on here, it means she must be producing something amazing over there. So there's gonna be good stuff this week. So make sure you check that out. Lots of great stuff. And You can find Tales from Beyond the Galaxy on Twitch and a few other spots as well. That's it. Oh yes, we also want to remind you to check out our Discord as well as you're heading out. That's important. Its link is in the description. All right, that's it. We'll be back in 7 days. Until then, for Ben and Dom, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you. That's right. Follow us on Twitter.
No. It's a wrap.